Let's have a look at the actual solver settings. I've been playing around with this for the last hour because it wasn't working and I couldn't work out why. Because the particles are particles per voxel, if I change the resolution, we should get either less particles or more particles depending on whether I've made the resolution smaller or bigger, but nothing's happening. And it took me ages to work it out. I thought it was a bug. It might still be a bug, but I realised if you unhook the cloth, then it starts working. Like that. But then I also noticed that this new cloth shell resolution, saying use mesh resolution, though doesn't have any effect now. If you re-plug in a cloth, it overrides this and it becomes this detail resolution, like so. So I'm not sure whether that's supposed to happen, considering that's sort of saying cloth and shell. Could be a bug, could be a thing that they've not thought of. They probably have. The only thing that makes me think that maybe they haven't quite got this sorted yet is there is no info about that shell resolution in the info page. So just to clarify, if you're having a problem and you're trying to change your resolutions for this fluid and you've got a cloth plugged in, turn off use mesh resolution, and then it will, oops, it's having the same number, then it will change the resolution for you. Right, so we can move on from that now. So, general, usual stuff: enable solver, master frame star, label point ID and label sources we'll look at in a bit. Just discuss this, which is slightly weird, but seems to be able to get it to work. So just to re-clarify that, if you've got a cloth attached, this overrides this unless you turn it off, like so. Gravity, enable usual, scene scale in meters where we want to change it to match real world sizes. Simulation speed, we can slow down the simulation or speed it up. This style, automatic from sources, smooth or chunky, we will get slightly different simulations. It's a bit like the style in the Aero. Smooth produces smoother motion where close particles will have similar velocities. Chunky produces velocities that are more varied, resulting in sharper cracks and overall noisier look. So if you're going for a sort of more of a fractured, broken up snow or earth stuff, maybe put it to chunky. Automatic sort of makes its own mind up about whether to go between the two of them based on your properties of your sources. So you can leave that automatic sources. Accuracy we've looked at before. Time steps. If you're getting inaccurate sort of interactions and simulations, you can crank up your minimum steps here. So that's how many times it will calculate per frame. The minimum, maximum there is obviously 1,000. So the minimum is the one you want to change there. And then the time step one is how far a particle moves before it gets re-evaluated through a voxel. So that's 0.4 of a voxel, I believe. Let's have a look. Time steps. Scaling factor, default time. Time step size. No, it just says it's actually based on various criteria. It's slightly different to what's going on with Aero. Scaling factor of the default time step. So it's a scaling factor of the default time step. Right. Okay. Well, we'll just ignore that for the moment. But I think if you make it bigger, you can make it, yeah, a bit unstable. The faster the overall simulation will be. If the value is too large, the simulation will have stability issues such as particles travelling too fast. Right, point display, seen that before with particles, changing disks, in the face of the camera, like so. Just leave these to points, to spheres for the moment. And then we've got some advanced stuff. Max voxel movement. The maximum voxel distance in voxels, detail size that a particle will move before the simulation is considered unstable and the frame is retried at a smaller time step. So this is a bit like what I was saying up here for time step size. This more sounds like what we would have got with the Aero, but obviously there's a slightly more sophisticated calculation going on between the two of them. So yeah, fiddle with those at your risk, I guess. Maximum distance in voxels, so if you probably make that smaller it will calculate it quicker. And that's the max retries of that, I believe. The minimum times it will try a frame, particle tracking more than minimal vox, yeah. Lag colliders, that's where it will basically take the previous frame and calculate that with a collider and then look at this frame to make sure that it's not over egging it and make sure, so it can help with collisions. And simulation bounds we looked at with the Aero. I've actually got a simulation bound here which I'll drag in, and this is good to put in especially for doing fluid stuff because you sometimes get quite a lot of splash and you might not want it. So my simulation bounds is basically just slightly bigger than what's going on in here, so anything that pops over the edge will just get deleted as it gets outside this box. Okay, so that is the solver settings. Let's have a look next to some other aspects of simming these, getting the colours out, fiddling around with how we can sort of play around with these post-simulation